All right, I'd like to call this regular scheduled zoning meeting to order. The Zoning Commission is now open for public hearing for those petitions advertised to be heard at this session. Be noted that for the record, Lam Nguyen is sitting in for Mike Henrik, and Steve Raguskas is sitting in for Stephanie Phillips, and the regular members are sitting. I wish to announce that should any items on tonight's agenda take more time than anticipated, this public hearing may conclude at 11 p.m. and be continued to another date, which will be established at that time. Any items not heard by 11 p.m. tonight will be heard at the continued public hearing. For the record, petitions to be heard this evening were advertised in the Connecticut Post on September 13th and September 19th. Those properties were duly posted on September 19th. Lam, if you could read the first petition, please.
First petition, 333 Lordship Boulevard, petition of Kevin O'Neill seeking a site plan review and special case approval to establish a food truck business in the parking lot of a distribution center in a MB zone.
Is the petitioner present? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kevin O'Neill. Address is 1010 Nichols Avenue, Stratford, Connecticut, 06614.
Thank you. And I see that you did present the certificates of mailing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You just want to explain what you plan on doing, and so that the whole commission can be informed?
Absolutely. So my wife and I, we started a food truck, and we're looking to park our truck on 333 Lordship, which is CDI, and we're going to service the employees at CDI and any clientele that are in the general area, essentially. So I've been a chef for about 15 years. My wife and I, we moved to Stratford about 3 years ago, and we bought our house over here, and we're raising our family here. So we figured it would be a great opportunity to bring some new business around and employ some people in the community. That's pretty much it.
Okay. That's going to be open to the public also?
Yes.
Have you been in contact with the health department on what they require as far as their needs?
Yes, I spoke to her today. My truck is in compliance with everything to code, so we have the ANSEL systems. Everything is regulated for her, so we just wanted to get through this hurdle here, and then I'll bring the truck over to the health department and get through that.
Okay, they're going to schedule you for an inspection?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions the commission may have here? Mr. Vacola?
Well, I just want to say welcome.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about this. This is the whole reason why, part of zoning is getting new businesses in, so I welcome you. Do you know the hours that it'll be open?
On Lordship, probably, we're thinking maybe 10 to about 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, good luck, and like I said, welcome to Stratford.
Thank you.
You by chance don't have a sample menu of what you're going to be serving, do you?
Oh, yeah, I do, actually.
Not that it matters, I'm on the road all day.
Would you like me to bring it up, or?
If you just want to give it to Lam, is that something we can keep, or is that?
Oh, yeah, you can keep it.
Is that your only one?
No, that's fine.
Okay. No, you're keeping it yourself. Okay, all right. Any further, Mr. Salhavi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, welcome as well. This is sort of a unique application. I've never seen anyone quite like this. So your agreement is with CDI, or to park there and to operate?
Yes.
Okay. And do they engage with anybody else, any other food trucks, or is it like an exclusive agreement that you'll be the one and only provider there?
Yes, it's just for us. It's our exclusive agreement.
Oh, okay. And that's about it.
Steve?
Also, welcome to town. Thank you
Thank you.
for choosing to open a business here. Just a couple questions. How long have you been running a food truck?
This is actually our first
Oh, okay.
time running it and operating the truck. So it's a new experience for us.
Gotcha. And will the truck stay there, or you drive it home at night and drive it back in the morning?
So we have a location. It's actually around the corner from here.
Okay, so it's not going to stay on
Yeah,
site?
it's not going to stay on site.
All right. And will you be open year-round?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sulhaby, you have any more? You
You know, actually,
just see your
while I leave it
microphone.
on there, I didn't see it, but was it mentioned anything about garbage removal and how that's being maintained? Has that been discussed with you?
No, but I figured because we're very close to the dump, I just, dispose of my trash there. That's pretty much, that's how I do it anyway, so I figured,
Okay.
that was it.
I'm sure Maureen will go over that
Yeah.
with you at the Board of Health.
yes.
She's a stickler on that.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
The CDI location has a dumpster there as well, so I don't think it'll be an issue if we shared the dumpster either.
Excellent. Any other questions? Seeing none?
I just wanted to clarify for the commission as well. I'd been working with the applicant for maybe the past month, and one of the questions I had was whether or not they were going to be providing seating. And it was my understanding that there won't be any tables or any dining area there in the parking lot. That was one of my concerns, but I didn't mention it in my comments because we had discussed it earlier. So I just, for the commission's knowledge.
And just for the record, I'll take a sweet potato fries
Yes,
when you open.
absolutely.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Anyone here who'd like to speak on behalf of the petition? In favor?
How are you?
Good, Tony.
Good.
Just-
Anthony Fidelio, owner of Station House Wine Bar and Grill. I've known Kevin for a few years, and he is an ultimate professional, and it would do nothing but benefit the town to have his professionalism, his quality cooking, and all around knowledge in the area. So he puts out quality. He's been a big help to me, and I'm sure he'll be an aid to the town.
Okay. Would you serve his food in your restaurant?
I would.
Okay.
Would. Absolutely. He's a good guy.
Would you spell your last name?
Fideleo.
Okay, thank you.
And he's a stickler, attention to detail, really.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak in favor? Mr. Doherty?
Thank you, Chairman Fredette, members of the board. My name's Kyle Doherty. I own and operate Doherty Insurance down here in Stratford Center. I've met Kevin fairly recently. And I think, as Mr. Vacola said, it's kind of music to everybody's ears to have a brand new business opening up in Stratford. I think that's pretty cool, pretty exciting. His food truck is going to be parked near where my office is down in Stratford Center. It's brand spanking new. If this was down in Long Wharf and New Haven, it would put all those food trucks to shame. It's a beautiful thing. I know there's some technical issues that with the zoning you guys have to figure out. I've met Kevin, I've worked with him on some of his business issues. Seems to be a very hardworking, bright, dedicated young man. I wish him the best along with his wife. And I hope what comes out of tonight is good news and a great start for him. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Please step forward.
Hello. Kevin Neal is my brother. I'm Latasha Neal. And Kevin, he's been very, in addition to the business that he's going to bring, he is a loving person. He's always been the kind of person that would share with the community, help people, help young people. So not only are you going to get a quality businessman and great food, but you're going to get someone who's going to be a quality person to the community, as far as, you know, if he sees someone in need, if he sees someone that requires that support, he's going to be there for them, if he has the power to do so. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Nope. Anyone in favor? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close by Mr. Lam. Second by Mr. Vacola. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Steve, can you read petition number 2, please?
495 Lordship Boulevard. Petition of Lordship Property Owner LLC seeking a site plan review and special case approval to construct 362,524 square foot warehouse and distribution facility in an MB zone. Coastal site plan review and erosion controls applications have also been submitted.
Good evening. Name is Patrick Rose, Rose Tizo and Company, representing the applicant, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield, Connecticut. I have the certificates of mailing. I have also just a simple handout of some things I'll go over in my presentation that about 11 by 17, so you can possibly see it better, depending on your vision. Here representing Lordship Property Owners LLC, they are under contract for purchase of 495 Lordship Boulevard, an existing 16.68 acre site that was the former molten chemical site. I think everybody's familiar with what building that is in town. This is a survey of the property that, there is approximately 300,000 square foot existing building on the site, plus about 11,000 square foot of other smaller ancillary buildings, and a significant amount of pavement. There is wetlands in this side of the building, along with a couple of wetland strips, which are on either side of an existing railroad spur that goes back into the property. What we're planning on doing is the railroad spur will stay. The wetlands, as they are, will stay in their current configuration. We've been through wetlands and had approval there. We're doing some minor restoration, removing phragmites, putting a new seed mix down for wetland soils to try and augment the wetlands that are there, as opposed to having the growing wild like they are currently. Again, the railroad spur will stay. There are entrances off of Honey Spot Road in this location, and then there's one off of Lordship here in the existing building. What we're proposing to do is to remove the existing structures on the facility and create a new Class A world-class warehouse and distribution facility for the area. It will consist of 362,000 square feet. There will be 59 loading docks on this side of the building facing Honey Spot, where we'll have an entrance and exit so that that's self-contained, that yard for where the trucks are. Then in the front of along Lordship, we will have parking for 201 cars, access from both Honey Spot and the current entrance from Lordship. What we're doing is creating 2 entrances on the corners of this building on the Lordship side. So there will be some ancillary office space associated with warehouse and distribution. anticipate that that happens up in front. We're providing access from the Lordship Boulevard sidewalk with a crosswalk to each one of these entrances. One of the suggestions from the ARB, which we've included within our presentation. We have to raise this building. Currently, the elevation of the building is about 10.5. In order to be above flood, we've got to go up to 12. We're going up to 12.5 for our finished floor. So we're adding some 2 feet of fill to this facility in order to raise it up high enough. Fortunately, the existing grade along the bays is about 8.5, so it works out. 12.5, 8.5 works out with a 4-foot dock, works very well. The only thing that doesn't work out well is at these entrances, we've got to create some ramps and stairs in order to get up that about 2.5 feet of difference, about 10 out at the Lordship Boulevard side. So that's one of the little challenges that we have. We have reviewed this plan with the fire marshal, and his suggestion was to add a 15-foot wide gravel road along this side of the building so we can access from this parking lot and along, create a fire lane for him. So that was his suggestion. We've incorporated that in our plan. Some of the other things that we've incorporated in our plan that have come out of comments from staff, comments from other boards and commissions include adding landscaping on this each side of the building along this parking lot, finishing off the street trees along Lordship Boulevard, which are not too many of them on this side to the east, adding street trees along Honey Spot Road extension. And then as part of the DEP review for CAM, they suggested that we change the way we were cleaning water. Previously, we were going to clean at one location where our storm drainage discharges. What they requested is that we take our catch basins and turn them into Coltec units, which essentially is a cleaning apparatus with a catch basin top on it, so that the water gets clean before it gets into our retention system. So we've done that and have included those. I think there's 13 of those units that go into the site. We have been to several boards and commissions. We've been approved by the Architectural Review Board, the Waterfront Harbor Commission, and Wetlands. So we've been through all the other commissions, and they've approved the project. We've added some things associated with that. One of the things we've done, just as part of your zoning regulations is, and some of the timing of getting things approved, is we've taken a notch out of this building such that we stay away from the 50-foot wetland setback. It's not anywhere within the building, so that we avoid that little problem. So we've done that. That got us through our wetlands and also makes it a little simpler for approvals here too. What we've done associated with this, just to go over the numbers for the zoning chart, is that the proposed 362,524 square foot building meets all the zoning criteria in the MB zone. The existing coverage is 36.5%. Our proposed coverage is 44.5%. The maximum in the zone is 50. The impervious area existing is 69%. The proposed is 71.7%. So we're increasing about a little less than a little more than 2%. The allowable is 80%, so well below the allowable. Open space is existing is 31%. Open space is 28.3% that we are proposing. The minimum is 20, so well above that. Parking, what we've done parking-wise is it's a requirement for warehouse distributions, 1 per 1,000 square feet. But because we are going special case, we anticipate multiple users on the facility. participate multiple users. We're taking advantage of the shared parking that's in the regulation that allows us to reduce it by 30%, so such that we end up with a requirement of 254 spaces, and we have 258 spaces available. Loading, we have more than enough loading associated with the regulations. It requires 19, we have 59. It's not an issue at all. Just to go over the building quickly, and I'll let Manny Silva from my office talk about the drainage. We'll go back to the site plan again. Is that the building is 920 feet long by 400 foot wide. Loading docks are on this side. The wetlands are on this side. There's some exit stairs along there. The two entrances are on these corners. So what we've, fairly large building, but it's something that we believe is in keeping with what we're doing. And let's just put this up because it's easier to look at a picture than it is elevations. What we're doing on the building is the first 2 feet are concrete because that's where we're creating a foundation wall to raise the building up. Above that, we have 12 foot of split face block all around the whole entire perimeter of the building. That's for durability in the facility. Above that, there's 33 foot vertical ribbed panels. They're about 40 inches wide. So the total height of our building is just under 50 foot maximum. So it's 60 foot actually in the zone, so we're within that. We are providing windows along each of the facades for light into the warehouse space. Each one of these entrances, you'll see the ramp, the stair, and the ramp. There's a canopy over that, which protects that stair and ramp. Entrance is here, which is a storefront curtain wall, which not only goes up to the underside of the canopy, but above that. So it's higher, so it's a little larger, a little more grandiose. But I believe that, it's a very, for its size, it will give a good presentation to Lordship Boulevard, and will be in keeping with the other facilities along that road. I'd like to turn it back over to Manny so we can go over the drainage.
Good evening. My name is Manny Silva, civil engineer for Rose T-Zone Company, representing the applicant, licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. I'm just going to take this off the mic here. Thanks. So Pat's kind of gone over some of the stuff that I normally talk about, so he stole my thunder a little bit, but that's fine. So the existing building is shown here. The existing runoff, how it worked, the water would fall on the roof and the paved areas, and that would be collected in these various catch basins on site. And then there was a oil water separator here, and then it was discharged directly into the town system. So the existing system that was out there was directly connected to the town system, and that's something that in the state in your new MS4 regulations that they want to avoid. So what we've done with our design is we've taken the runoff that would fall on top of this warehouse and on these parking spaces, and we collect them in these catch basins here and along these basins here for the roof leaders. And instead of, for instance, for the roof water, which is clean water, there's no oil or any kind of grit on the roof water, that gets directed directly into these underground galleries which go around the whole site here. That will then infiltrate the water, hold it in a volume underneath the water. They're 2x4 galleries, so it's basically a space that's created, and I'll show you a detail in a minute, underneath the ground, and those are open bottoms, so the water actually goes into those galleries, and it infiltrates into the ground, filters through, and doesn't get conveyed out into the road on Hunting Spot Road. Instead, it has a chance to go back into the groundwater and recharge the groundwater all the way around the site. For surface parking, where you can get some oil or sand into the basins themselves, along with what the CAM boys up at DEP required us to do, is that we put a water quality unit, which is a swirl concentrator at every point where we get runoff off of pavement. And what that does is actually it takes all floatables like bottles, oils, things of that nature, and it keeps it in that unit so it doesn't get conveyed into our storage or underground storage. And then eventually, if there was enough rain, would go into the town system on Honey Spot Road. So these units also not just clean out floatables, but also pick up heavy metals and sand and that nature, and that'll collect at the bottom. And then there's a kind of a hood, pipe hood that won't allow any floating objects to leave that unit itself. There's a maintenance agreement on the plans to clean out those units and inspect them every 6 months, and if they have a certain amount of sediment in them, to vacuum them out. We meet the DEP's requirement for water quality. That's actually right here. We exceed it. What we're required to have for the water quality volume is about 45,000 cubic feet, and we're providing almost 47,000 cubic feet of water storage. For the town requirement of the 25-year storm, in this town, we have to not increase from the existing condition at the 25-year storm. We actually went and did better. We actually don't increase. We have a reduction in stormwater runoff at the 2-year storm at 47%. This is on page 4 of my engineering report, table 2. The 25-year storm is reduced by 30.8%. The 50-year storm is reduced by 28.3%, and the 100-year storm is reduced by 25%. So what that means at the 100-year storm, meaning like a 7-inch rainstorm, and even at the 2-year storm, which is about a 2-inch rainstorm, which happens more often, we reduce the amount of runoff that's coming off the site by ranging from half, right? So half of it to about 25%. So what's going into the town system right now, this new proposal, once it's finished, will actually reduce the amount of water that's leaving the site and reduce the any downstream flooding that's going on Honey Spot Road. And how we achieve that is basically, again, we have this whole gallery system that circumvents the property on 3 sides, and then we have a control structure which meters out the flow slowly through some orifices in a weir wall. So the water, as it's filling up these underground tanks, they're not really tanks because the bottoms are open, but what happens is that there's a weir wall that stops the water from leaving, and as it floods up, these 3 little orifice holes allow some water to leak out over time, and that is actually will end up being between 50 to 25% less water than leaves the site today. Another thing that we had to accommodate was, again, the MS4 requirements of the town. The town, per the direction of DEP, had to submit regulations for MS4, and that's basically to take stormwater from sites that have been already developed offline, meaning that there is no direct discharge into the town system from these developments. And what we've done, we've taken essentially, this site was about 75% direct discharge into the town system, and now it's 0%. Because what we have is all the water is going into an underground gallery system, is being held, it's trying to be infiltrated, and then from there, it was allowed to leak off into the town system with some larger storms. So we've gone from a 75% direct discharge to 0% with this new proposal. So we meet that on the MS4, and we also have a review from CAM, and they had they had one comment, which is basically just to over-excavate underneath the gallery system and add another 1.5 to 2 feet of material, and we agreed to do that. In fact, I think these plans have already been revised to show that. During construction, we have to be conscious of when we're disturbing the site to not allow any silt or any construction debris to leave the site while we're working on it, while it's unstable, meaning that there's soil that could be eroded or things of that nature. So what we have is a silt fence around the whole property at the limit of disturbance. So if it was to rain on the site while we're digging, the dirt gets, or the mud gets caught on that silt fence. The water's allowed to filter through, but all the material, all the silt and dirt stays on inside the silt fence. We also have silt sacks on all our new basins, and that's so that if it was to rain in our system and some of our basins are already in, that water that goes into the basins that may be a little bit cloudy or turbid will get filtered, and the mud will get caught in that silt sack. And then once we get everything paved and landscaped, we pull those silt sacks and all that comes inside the sack, and the actual units are like brand new. There's nothing in them, and they're ready to operate from day one as if they were brand new. We also have anti-tracking pad at the site entrance, and that's so that trucks, when they're on the site and they have mud on their wheels, it's this large stone that we put at a bed of large stone at the exit, so that knocks off all the mud off the wheels and doesn't track it into the street. Sometimes I know this, you'll see sometimes when they don't have an anti-tracking pad, you'll just see like tracks, mud tracks into the road. That's to prevent that. We have our construction sequence here in how to maintain all the soil erosion controls. We have an ornamental landscaping plan. I think Pat went over it. We have shade trees along Lordship Boulevard and Honey Spot Road, and then we have some shade trees along the inside the parking area for the passenger vehicles, and then we have a picnic area here for the employees themselves. We also have a good number of existing shade trees that we're going to maintain. Just another point, there was an overflow parking area out here. That's going to be all pervious now. We're going to rip out the pavement, and it's just going to be grass out there right on the other side of the railroad tracks, because we don't need that there. So here are some of the construction details. Basically, at our sidewalks, at every sidewalk, you have to have detectable warning mats for the visually impaired. We'll provide those. We have the fencing detail, sidewalks. Basically, I won't bore you with the details on some of that stuff. Again, details on the concrete curbs. The site will have concrete curbs along the building, and we'll have some integral walking curbs, our standard detail for our sewers. And again, all our basins will have these snouts, which will allow trash to get caught inside of the actual basin and not go out of the pipe, like bottles and paper, things of that nature. Something else. Here's our storm scepter unit that we selected. Again, these are units that will filter out any sand, oil, or basically any kind of pollutants that's in the water. I think the spec is down to 2.2 microns, or a little above 2 microns, so very fine particles get caught in here. And basically along our loading docks, we're going to have these slot drains instead of having just a point catch basin, due to the fact that the loading docks are all uniform and they have to be all level, so we just use a slot drain going all the way up, similar to what we used over at the FedEx site. Here's the detail of those silt sacks. As you can see, here's our catch basin, and there's a piece of filter fabric that goes in over the grate, under the grate, and then the grate goes on top of it to lock it in. And what happens is as water goes in, it gets filtered and the mud gets caught in here, and then only clean water is allowed to go in. And once the construction is done, we pull all those sacks out, and again, then we have clean units from day one. Here's just a bunch of notes on soil erosion control, who to call if there is an issue. We have temporary sedimentation traps out there, because when you do have large the rainstorms, you have a collection point for all the water, just for temporarily. That's so that all the mud and things that are suspended in the water just drop out into that temporary basin, and it's allowed to infiltrate. It doesn't go off the site. We have our stabilization stockpile for soil. And then this is basically our lighting plan. All the lights will be shoebox fixtures with LEDs pointing downward, with house side shields so it doesn't spill off site. So all these have the new dark sky standards. And as you can see, if you guys get really close, anything around the property lines is well below 0. Is at, you know, either a point, 0.2, 0.1 with very minimal light spillage. If anybody has any questions, I think that's it for me.
Any questions at this time? Mr. Salhavi?
Just considering the former use of the building, it was still, I believe that was engaged in the chemicals and films and different areas. Is there any environmental mitigation that has to take place prior to demolition or during the construction phase of the existing structures?
Yeah, I'll hand it over to, do you want to address that, Pat, or?
Yeah, this is an item that was discussed thoroughly at the wetlands. They had big concerns about what was at the site, what contamination, what issues there are. And there's testing that's been done, testing that's been done in the past also. The environmental company had been working on the site since 2002, I believe it was, so they had a lot of information. There is no VOCs on the site. There are some heavy metals that exceed the remediation standards, so that they have to either be removed from the site or they can be kept on site and used under the building, depending on how the soils are, the stabilization of that soils, and can it be used for fill. So yes, there are contaminants, but it is nothing that, we were very, very pleasantly surprised there was no oils or VOC or VOCs.
It's good because as a previous time when the commission, I know another application came forward and there was a lot of negotiation still with ExxonMobil, and the environmental issues were sort of a showstopper on there. So I'm glad that that's been worked through. So I'll take that. As to the new use of the property, I'm assuming that these, you know, the description we've gotten about the wastewater catch system and so on. I've heard you mention oils there because you're gonna have a lot of trucks on site coming in and out, so that becomes a concern then of whatever else is either, you know, if anything's leaking from the trucks or if there's anything that's on the trucks themselves that, you know, the grits that and whatever that gets on the trucks after a while. That I'm assuming that this system would be able to, you know, handle any of that and prevent any contamination of the site from that.
Right, they can, and this is the best way to do it, and that's what the DEP suggested, is to go to the Coltec system so that at the discharge point coming off the asphalt, that's where it's collected.
Okay.
So it doesn't get into the underground system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Just one quick thing on the MS4, one of Jay's comments was associated with porous pavement, and him and I talked about it, and the way the MS4 is written, we are increasing impervious, but that's not a hindrance to, he was asked us to do impervious pavement to make up the difference between the impervious that we're putting on. That's not what the MS4 looks for. It looks for the discharge associated with stormwater, and that it's not a point discharge not being treated, that you treat 50% because of redevelopment, we're treating 100%. So that's sort of, that's gone away, we've agreed on that. I'd like to have Michael Dion talk about the traffic.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mike Dion with BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. We were tasked with investigating the potential traffic impacts associated with the development. What that entailed is we did field reconnaissance on the site, we did some traffic counts, and we investigated any potential other developments that are coming in for their traffic. So what we did is we did traffic counts on Lordship Boulevard at key intersections to get our existing counts. And what we did then is we progressed them at a growth factor of 1% per year till next year for when they anticipate they start construction. And we also noticed that there was a multi-use development going in 225 Lordship Boulevard, so we got their traffic study and included their traffic volumes in our volumes, which became our background traffic. What we then did is we took the Institute of Transportation Engineers, developed trip generation data for different land uses, and we applied those land uses for warehousing to this development and came up with that the AM peak hour will have about 70 new trips, and the PM peak hour will have 72 new trips to the neighborhood traffic network. What we then did is we took those volumes and added them, distributed them to the network, and came up with our build volumes. We then take that and put it into our software with the traffic signal timings that we got from the Department of Transportation, and we come up with a level of service calculation, and that's based on the delay at the intersections. And this calculation, it is based on just like you're in school, A through F grading criteria, A being the best, F being the worst, and the Department of Transportation considers a D as acceptable. So all of our intersections in our study, the total overall intersection level of service was a C or above in all cases, but what we did notice is in the PM peak hour at the Honey Spot intersection, the northbound approach, the approach itself went from a D to an E. So we did look at, after we received the comments, we did look at it, and we will suggest to the Department of Transportation that if you take a couple of seconds away from the Honey Spot side streets and add them to the northbound approach, it brings it right back up to a D, an acceptable level of service. So this is due to the size of the development, over 100,000 square feet and 200 parking spaces, and it having frontage on the DOT roadway. It is going to have to go to OSTA for review, so we will be submitting for an administrative decision with the department. So they will have to approve all of our volumes and all of our recommendations for improving the street network. And if you have any questions?
Do we have any questions just for the traffic expert?
I'm just wondering how you came up with the calculation of 70 additional trips if you've got a parking lot that holds over 200 cars and you've also got however many
This
loading
is
docks.
based on industry standard from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and it's just based on one peak hour. So the peak hour of your street network traffic, this has been, 60 years in the making there. They test sites all around the country, and that's the number of cars and trucks they would expect to come to the site during that one peak hour. If you have cars that come before that or after that, that's how that number comes up.
So you're sort of planning on it being a staggered kind of people arriving and departing at different times.
Yes, and your trucks wouldn't be leaving during the peak hours.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Sulhavy?
So just to be clear, that does include the trucks that would be coming to the 59 bays that are in the facility?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And when we did our traffic analysis, we did account for an increase in heavy vehicles, which does add delay because they're larger.
It takes
than
longer to
cars
get
and take
through.
longer to
They're
get
bigger.
moving. Yep, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That pretty much concludes our presentation. The representatives of the owners are here, actually, if you had any questions for them. Eric Leclerc and Leif Donaldson. What we're asking, I think everybody's looked at this and they understand it fairly well, is that if possible, we would like to see if we could get a decision tonight if possible, as soon as possible, because we're under some time crunches.
Did you guys bring a menu too?
I don't have a menu, I'm sorry.
That's it, you're done.
But he's right next to us, we can go get it from him.
Hey, dude, you guys are gonna be eating next door. Yeah. Any other questions for, no, nothing, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody here would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone want to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close by Steve Raguskas and seconded by Lam Nguyen. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. I have a motion to close the public hearing portion of our meeting by Lam, seconded by Mr. Sulhavy. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved, 5-0. Now on to our administrative portion of the meeting. Mr. Solhavy.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. I'd like to take the first item, 333 Lordship Boulevard, off the table.
Motion by Mr. Solhavy to take the first petition off the table, second by Lam Win. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Solhavy.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 333 Lordship Boulevard.
I have a motion to approve. And do I have a second by Mr. Vacola? Any discussion on the matter? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Let me just say a couple words on it
sorry.
before we go. No, I just want to say this looks like a very good partnership agreement that has been worked out. And as long as the issues of just making sure that the garbage is removed, I'll leave that to the administrative folks to take care of. This is sort of unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, and maybe it's going to set the tone for others, because the food truck. I happened to go to the food truck thing down in New Haven this weekend, and there are a lot of people that go, and some very good food too. So hopefully this will be something that succeeds, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I have a tendency to agree that hopefully it does set a tone for the town, and you will possibly find a brick and mortar place to open up also, but if not, maybe more food trucks will come to Stratford, and we can expand that. Maybe not as much as New Haven, but okay. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. 5-0. Welcome to Stratford. Mr. Solhavy, you...
I'd like to take item 495, Lordship Boulevard, Lordship Property Owner LLC, off the table.
Motion by Mr. Solhavy. Do I have a second? Mr. Vacola. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Solhavy, your pleasure.
And I'll make a motion to approve 495 Lordship Boulevard.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Solhavy to approve, and second by Mr. Lam Win.
So,
any further discussion on the matter, Mr. Solhavy?
Yes. Again, very impressive presentation. I know, as I alluded to in my comments, I think it was during my previous stint on zoning. I'm not sure if you were on, but Mr. Henrik probably was too. We had a very lengthy discussion with a potential developer regarding the property, and they weren't able to come to an agreement, so I'm very happy to see that this moved forward. It's good to see something that appears consistent with, well, for one thing, they've added in some of the Architectural Review Board. I know Chairman Zabel will be happy about that. And looks like we're pretty much consistent. I believe it's POCD consistent. Did I see everything correctly? Just want to make sure. Anyway, it would, so it's probably good that a lot of care has been taken environmentally and with the sediment and erosion as well. I was thinking here, actually, during the presentation, I know it's in rough shape, but that it's a shame that rail spur couldn't be used, because then you can have like a true intermodal facility. That would be a very big benefit, but I don't know even if it's usable anymore. It's been there forever.
I think it's been abandoned.
Yeah.
There's been talk of having that spur reopened.
Yeah.
By multiple users that are on that line.
That might be something to look toward the future. Yes. Yes, we want to go through those. With Mr. Urban, okay. I think we, as indicated in the zoning notes, do you want me to read through these? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. The suggested conditions, and I will make them part of my motion without objection. The applicant shall obtain a letter from a licensed engineer ensuring this project's compliance with the Town of Stratford's MS4 stormwater permit. This letter shall be delivered/emailed to the Office of Planning and Zoning and kept in the applicant's file. Number 2, all recommendations provided by DEEP shall be incorporated into the plan of development. Item 3, the applicant shall implement all recommendations provided by the Environmental Conservation Superintendent in her email dated September the 12th, 2019. Item A, the applicant shall establish a 2-year monitoring period to ensure the success of the invasive species management and the establishment of the native seed mix. A report shall be submitted to the Environmental Conservation Superintendent for review first, and then presented to the Planning and Zoning Administrator to be kept in the applicant's file. The applicant shall submit a more detailed plan for fugitive dust control to be presented to the Zoning Enforcement Officer prior to building demolition activities. Item 4, the applicant shall implement any and all recommendations provided by the town engineer. And item 5, the applicant shall not increase the total impervious area on the site by providing previous parking stalls where deemed appropriate by the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
I'll just add that condition, I suggested that because I did not think that it was in compliance with our MS4 stormwater permit. After speaking with the applicant, talking with the town engineer, the increase in the impervious area would not void the town's MS4 permit.
Okay.
I still stand by not wanting to increase the impervious area and having more green space, or not necessarily green space, but just pervious area. So if the commission still feels that they think that that's an appropriate condition, then I would stand by it still.
Okay. I will accede to your suggestion, if that's okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do you agree on that as a second, everything that Chris read off? Okay. Any other further comments? Seeing none, sorry.
I just thought I would add, because Stratford's in need of more business coming in, especially your large building that's coming in. I'm assuming you're going to be bringing in a lot of jobs to Stratford, and we really appreciate that because, that's going to just create more traffic and more people that want to be a resident of Stratford. So we thank you.
Also, the applicant mentioned that, or the traffic engineer mentioned that they're going to be trying to work with DOT to maybe revise the signal cycling to reduce, or I'm sorry, to restore the level of service from the anticipated E to the D. I would request that verification that restoration to level D be emailed to me so that I can keep that in the file. And if we could add that as a condition.
I would happy to add that to my list of conditions, that it be emailed, the upgrade from E to D be transmitted to the Planning and Zoning Office and kept in the file.
And Mr. Nguyen, you accept that as okay. All that being said, no other further comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Passes 5-0. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. I need the approval of the minutes from our August 28th, 2019 meeting by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mr. Solhavy. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? 5-0. Campsite plan review for 495 Lordship Boulevard.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, continuing with the approval just granted, I'll make a motion to approve the CAM plan review.
Motion by Mr. Solhavy. Do I have a second by Mr. Vacola? Any further discussion on the matter? Seeing none?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, we just had a recommendation that all recommendations provided by DEP shall be incorporated into the plan of development.
Correct. Okay. Accept that, Mr. Vacola? Yes. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Zoning enforcement study, accessory apartment, sediment and erosion control application for 495 Lordship Boulevard. Mr. Solhavy.
I had a feeling there was a reason they weren't leaving, just hanging around. I don't think we're that entertaining.
They didn't trust us.
Yeah. Regarding the erosion and sediment control, I move that it be approved with the following conditions. Number 1, all necessary siltation and erosion control shall be in place and the zoning enforcement officer notified for an inspection prior to any site construction work being performed. Number 2, immediate on-site modifications shall be employed when an erosion problem is developed. Item 3, in evaluating this application, the commission has relied on information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be inaccurate or incomplete, this approval may be modified, suspended, or rescinded. Item 4, the applicant shall submit a more detailed plan for fugitive dust control if to be provided to the zoning enforcement officer prior to the demolition activities, building demolition activities.
Okay.
I just wanted to reiterate so that the applicant can hear as well. I mean, just given the fact that there may be some contamination on site, and we've had issues with dust control at other potentially contaminated sites. Condition number 1, that all erosion and sediment control measures are in place, and the zoning enforcement officer called for an inspection before any work is done, is really important. That's it.
I believe you need a second.
And second by Mr. Roguskis. Any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, you're done. Thank you.
You're good. Thank you.
Okay, planning projects. I need a motion to waive the rules to approve or discuss or to extend the petition of Linden Avenue Associates LLC, 1264 Linden Avenue, in regards to a project that they're looking for an extension over on.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to waive the rules for immediate consideration of 1254 to 1264 Linden Avenue.
A motion by Mr. Solhavy, second by Mr. Nguyen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Apparently, this is a petition that we could deal with next month, but I kind of committed to somebody that we would at least look at it this evening. It was a 18-month addition beyond the current expiration date of October 19th, 2019. I guess they just didn't want to get jammed in on
Okay, so we've had some issues with extensions of late, and I'm looking at a letter dated April 28th, 2011. So the question is, through you to anyone who wants to jump at this one, is this application extendable?
Well, I believe it should be. First off, we're Greater Bridgeport Transit Authority, or Metro North, I think, has kind of like taken over their property to do the work at exit 33 there, or 32. And I think they're going to be there for at least a year, correct?
Yes.
So were final plans submitted by October the 19th, 2011?
Yes, they were.
So then it is.
So this approval is still active and good.
Okay, that was my question.
Quite a few extensions, but still good. So the commission is within their right to approve this should they feel that it's appropriate.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve it for, what is the period that we're allowed to do?
18 months?
18 months?
Yeah.
Do we need to actually articulate a date?
18 months from October 19th.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'll make the motion to approve the 18-month extension.
Motion by Mr. Solhavy, second by Mr. Vacola. Any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. I don't know what, there he is, sitting in the bullpen. Warming up, right-handed pitcher.
Swing, bada, bada, swing. So, Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate at this time to request that we enter into executive session regarding Alchemy Development versus Stratford Zoning Commission to include members of the commission, the town attorneys, and the planning and zoning administrator?
Is that
For
what
the
you're look-
purpose of discussion of, I'm assuming, pending litigation?
Is
Yes.
that what you're looking for, Senator?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's for the purpose of discussing strategy with regards to pending litigation.
Okay, do we have to go into your office, or can we do it out here?
I think 217 is open.
213.
213. I'm an
17,
old-timer.
16.
Was 217.
That was a long time ago, all right?
Old habits die hard.
All right, we will recess for...
Let's take a vote.
Oh, yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Oh.
I thought Alex did. Second by Mr. Vacola.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Executive session, here we come.
Higher likelihood of injury.
All right, back from executive session at 8:13. Anything under goal settings, the Army Engine Plan, parking, recommendations to town council, POCD, TOD? We got,
I have just one quick thing. I know the zoning commission, sorry. We talked about improving some of the parking regulations a year ago. It went to the planning commission. They really looked over it. They added some new things that they thought that weren't included in my report, some parking calculations that should either be increased, decreased, so that we're not asking for parking fields when we don't need them. I'm expecting to get that back. They have one more adjustment they wanted to make, and I expect that application for a text amendment to revise some of our parking calculations either next month or the following month. That's it.
thank you. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Nguyen, second by Steve Raguskas. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much, everyone. Another successful, quick meeting.